meditate on how Jesus died. My daughter came home at 15 years of age and told me that she was forced into a religious ceremony. It would be like asking Catholics to go to, or forcing Catholic children to go to Muslim prayers on a Friday.
It's not fine if you have to deal with your child learning something that you did not want them to learn. And it goes back again to the fact that, you know, people send their children to a Catholic school. You can say, well, you know, they knew it was a Catholic school and that's fine, but sometimes there isn't a choice, and that's where the problem lies.
Examine the type of school to which you're sending your children, and you understand the type of school. If they went to a Muslim school, they would be exposed to the same Muslim ethos, a Muslim doctrine, and that would be part and parcel of those schools.
But isn't that the difficulty, is that many parents do not have that choice?
Well, many parents do have the choice. Many parents have, as I say, quite large and well-spread community colleges, community schools. In our case, our community colleges are growing in number, and I think that's the model and the way forward.
But Jane believes that the only answer is for the state to cease funding denominational education altogether.
Ethos is a license to indoctrinate. Even if you opt your children out of religious education or the religious instruction class, you can't get away from an ethos, because ethos permeates the whole school day. So that section of the Education Act that allows me to opt my children out is simply inoperable.
Our current school system provides one of the last powerful bridges between young families and the church. Our bishops will resist any attempt to remove God from our schools entirely. This battle has only just begun.
Katie Hannam reporting that I'm joined in studio by Father Vincent Toomey, who's Emeritus Professor of Moral Theology from Maynooth, and by another professor here to my left, who's also Senator Ivana Bacik. Beginning with you, Father Toomey, I mean, I suppose in the Ireland we live in today, I think for many people the Catholic Church is hugely important, but isn't it wrong at this stage that you control almost 3,000 schools?
Well, I think control is a kind of an emotive word, really. Historically, the churches, you know, began the education in Ireland at a time when Catholics were not allowed to be educated. And then eventually the primary system took over, and because of circumstances, it so happened that the local priest or the local vicar ended up as managing the schools. I think it's very important to remember that, according to our constitution, its parents have a right and a duty to see to the education of their children. The state's job is to help them. Now, there is a real problem, and I have sympathy with any convinced atheist or who actually finds it rather difficult to bring up their children in a way they would like them to bring it up, that they actually don't have in their area a possibility of doing that. The trouble with education is you may have 180,000 perhaps who don't want that, you know. I think that's a rather inflated figure anyhow, but that is throughout the whole country. And until there's a critical mass in a particular area, can actually the parents of those children find a way to provide education for them?
Okay, let me bring in Ivana on that.
Well, I think the real issue here is about choice, and I mean, David Quinn has admitted there that there are far too many Catholic schools for the numbers of parents who actually wish their children to receive Catholic religious instruction. And just to be clear, the integrated curriculum that is the national school system, and 91% of our national schools are Catholic. The integrated curriculum means religious instruction in the Catholic faith throughout the school day, and that can be very problematic, not only for children of atheist parents, but for children of parents of other religions, and indeed for children of Catholic parents who would prefer their children to get a more broader or rounded education.
I mean, at the end of the day, we all know, though, an awful lot of people still choose, young middle-class couples and middle-aged couples, they choose to baptise their children. They use their feet to choose these schools. They go to church to get married. They go to church to bury people. There are a lot of people who still want it.
I think that's right, and it's entirely up to them. Where I have a fundamental problem is with the state funding schools that are in fact sectarian, that are built on religious. No, and can I just finish?
You know,
and the issue is
about that's a loaded term.
Can I finish the point?
No,
the issue is about control and management of schools, and the schools are still controlled 91% by the Catholic religion and and less and 99 and fastest growing group of schools in Ireland is the Educate Together group. The monthly
I think it's very is natural that actually as people as we fall away from the church, that they will actually find other ways of educating their children. That's the way things will go. That's the natural progression. The fact is that you know, most parents want their children to be educated Catholics, and primary education is not only an education in information, it's a formation.
Well, most
and
parents
also the
don't
moral
have a choice.
formation. Yeah.
Most parents. The reality, particularly outside of urban centres, there is only a local Catholic school. I went to a local Catholic school. I'm a mother of 2 small children. Yeah. I don't want them to have a religious education. But even in Dublin city centre, Educate Together schools have long waiting lists because so many parents, be they Catholic, Protestant or of no religion, want their children to receive a more rounded education, not religious instruction.
But I think behind all of this, actually, the choice element is very, very good, and the government can only do so much, and the church will help the government to provide whatever it can with its present resources. Because, as David Quinn indicated, in actual fact, and as the church herself has indicated, there may be situations where in areas you don't have the support for a church-run school, in which case then there will be there will be a way of... So the church is open to that. So I object to your presentation of control. But may I say something else? I think there's something much more fundamental here, and that is the whole question of religion. I think the whole thrust of their interesting introduction was that somehow or other we're into post-Catholic Ireland. I would object to that.
I think, to be fair, Father Toomey, to be fair and Kate, I don't think they said that. I think she interviewed, you know, to be fair.
David Quinn used that.
I'll just quote, as David Quinn said, you know. But I think that actually his own institute, AON Institute, have actually produced figures recently that church attendance has gone up in the last 10 years.
Well, I think those are two different things. I mean, people's faith is their own business. And
let Ivana come back in there.
But here we're talking about the state-funded national schooling system. The state pays for the schools, pays the teachers' salaries, and yet the schools remain, under our system of patronage in the Education Act, they remain under the control of the religious education. And to be fair, Archbishop Martin has recognised that this cannot continue, that this has to be reviewed.
I know, Senator, but 90% of the Catholics of Ireland are paying the state to run their schools. Well, I mean, say, you're assuming that somehow or other you've got a secular state and the Catholics. We pay our taxes too.
Okay, let me comment there. Father Toomey, let me ask you a question, if I may. So what you're saying, they pay their taxes, but maybe is it right that since the state is paying for the schools, that at the end of the day, it's down to the church to decide who the teachers can be? I mean, is that right? Should we not have more division between church and state in 2009 in Ireland, accepting all the church did in the past?
Yeah,
but now
also,
it's a different reality.
I would say no. Very briefly.
Now there's a surprise.
Indeed. No, the thing is, absolutely. The thing is that one thing we all forget is that this distinction between church and state is a Catholic Christian thing. It wouldn't have arisen in history.
And this is not a Catholic state.
Don't talk over each other, okay? Finish, and then I'll let you in.
The thing is that the Catholic Church actually itself recognised there is a secular element. There is a secular, the whole, as it were, secular sphere is an independent, autonomous sphere, but that the role of religion is central to that.
Okay, let Ivana Bacik come back and then.
Well, I think, first of all, this is not a Catholic state, and people are with their feet. The biggest growing group of schools is the Educate Together group. There's no grounding in religious education about all religions, not instruction in one particular
faith. I think it's wrong to assume that the Irish state is unique in this. In England, 3/4 of the schooling is provided by denominational, by Church of England, Catholic, Methodist, Jewish and all the rest of it. And it is state funded. We are not unique, you know. I mean, it comes back to that we pay our taxes and we have a right to actually educate our children. We also, I think, I met a Protestant, very famous Protestant theologian in Germany once who said what amazed him about Catholic Ireland was its tolerance. Yeah? Well, that we have an enormous tolerance thanks to our Catholic faith. Okay. It's all embracing. It is something which we can be proud of. Unfortunately, the impression one gets sometimes,
a last word from Ivana Bacik. fair.
The UN Human Rights Committee has criticised the lack of choice for parents in Ireland today because the school system is still so controlled by particular religions, and in particular by the Catholic religion. This is an issue about choice. In an Ireland that's changing, with an increasingly diverse population, where parents want to see their children educated in a broader and more rounded way, and where their instruction in a particular religion is
that was meant to be a quick point. So I have to leave it there. I think it's being fair. Father Toomey, Ivana Bacik, thank you both very much. Mark.
Thanks, Miriam. That's all we have time for tonight. The